Hello and welcome to Enchantment of Eternity's review for The Boys, Season 2, Episodes 1 through 3. This video is part of a series of videos where I review episodes of The Boys. So I have to start with a spoiler warning for The Boys up to Season 2, Episode 3. If you haven't seen up to this point, you will not want to watch this video. Otherwise, some things will be spoiled for you. So first of all, before I get into anything else, I gotta say I was surprised to learn that The Boys was being released weekly. Now, they had this like sort of mini drop, this mini binge with 3 episodes, but from now here on out, each episode will be released once a week, which is... I don't think it's completely unheard of with Amazon, but it's not common practice. Usually they drop everything all at once, such as with The Boys Season 1. They dropped the whole thing all at once. So I was actually expecting to come here today and review the entire season of Season 2. Now, I have said in the past, particularly in regards with the show The Expanse, which is one of my favorite shows, it also airs on Amazon Prime, that I prefer they release it weekly. For the latest season, Season 4, they dropped it all at once, and I was very disappointed. I think it really cuts back on the communal experience, and I tried to do each review separate, but it's really not the same thing. So for me personally, as a fan of The Expanse, I'm hoping that this sort of bodes well for Amazon, that maybe they'll do this for The Expanse as well. They'll release it weekly. But as far as The Boys goes, I don't know, because when beforehand, when I was thinking about binge watching, I was kind of against the whole concept. Even with shows I like, that, you know, you get that instant gratification where you watch the entire season at once. You don't have to wait. You don't have to be on pins and needles. You can just click the next episode, blue. But it's even with shows that I'm not like completely in love with like The Expanse. I don't know, I was kind of off-put on the whole binge experience. First of all, I have no willpower, so if I start a show, unless it's not incredibly great, if it's just kind of average, maybe I can let it down. But if it's at least like a really good show, and it doesn't have to be one of the best shows ever, it just has to be, you know, really good, then I have no willpower. I will stay up all night. I will get zero sleep and watch the whole thing. I've done it so many times. I said to myself, "Oh, I'll just watch 1 or 2 episodes." 6 o'clock in the morning, I'm like, "Oh, fuck it. Let's just finish watching the whole damn thing." So I have no willpower. So that's one reason why I was kind of against binge watching or dropping the whole show all at once. But another reason is it kind of ends the experience a lot quicker. Like, if you drag it out week for week, then that's like a couple months where the show's on air, people are talking about it, the buzz is going around. Whereas when you binge drop it, like, maybe people talk about it for a week or two after a binge, but after that, it just kind of, it fizzles out a lot quickly, which is why personally I think for just from a completely commercial money-wise standpoint, I think releasing it weekly is probably would be more profitable for these networks, because it keeps the buzz alive longer. People are more engaged for a longer time, as opposed with the binge watch. But I suppose binge watching is kind of like releasing a movie, I suppose, when you watch it all at once, but you still talk about it for a while. But I don't think it works the same way with TV shows. Honestly, think that the weekly format creates more buzz, and it's probably better from a commercial standpoint. We've got other streaming platforms like Disney Plus and CBS All Access that are doing all the shows weekly as well. So I think maybe these streaming services are trying to are leaning that way. There's HBO, who of course started out as a cable premium channel, but is now a streaming service, HBO Max. Still a cable channel though as well, but mainly is leaning more into the streaming service side, and they release their stuff weekly, just as they always have. So I actually kind of hope that will be the norm. Now, with all that being said, taking it back to The Boys, I kind of am regretting that stance a little bit because I kind of wish they'd drop the whole season all at once. I don't know. I do really love the show, which is why I want to see it, which is why I don't want to wait. And I think this show, I think there are certain shows, like Better Call Saul is one of them, which is on AMC, so that's weekly, and I kind of wish they binge dropped that. And I feel kind of the same way with The Boys, because it feels like you get little fragments of the story. And like certain other shows, be it Game of Thrones, The Expanse, or whatnot, like each episode is like its own thing. You want to focus and talk about it and think on it before you see the next episode. Black Mirror, especially that, because Netflix binge drops that, but I never binge watch it because it's just I want to reflect on each episode before I just jump into the next one. But The Boys, I wouldn't really put in that category. I would put like it is moving at a slow pace, and if I recall, season 1 moved at a slow pace too, which, don't get me wrong, I'm not complaining about that in the least, because that's it allows more character development, but it's kind of just like Better Call Saul. But I kind of, when shows move at a slower pace like that, I kind of wanted to watch it all at once. So I don't know, maybe I'm changing my mind about binge watching, and maybe I wish they would have dropped this all at once, but whatever. We got what we got. I got to watch the first 3 episodes, and I gotta wait week to week. It's gonna be a little excruciating, but hey, it's gonna allow me to come here weekly and talk about each episode with you guys, hear your thoughts, watch the other videos, whatnot, which I do appreciate. I do appreciate that communal experience. Otherwise, if they drop the whole thing at once, then I'd be talking about the whole season at once, and most people tend to focus on the ending of the season. But now we can focus on the beginning, because we gotta wait a bit to see the ending. So, maybe I am very glad that they are dropping it weekly. But anyway, let's get into these first 3 episodes. Now, I'm not going to talk about each episode separate, because just like when you binge watch anything, all the episodes tend to blend together. And so we got episode 1, the big ride, episode 2, proper preparation and planning, and episode 3, over the hill with the swords of 1,000 men. So I am going to try to get a bit in order, actually, but if things blend together, don't blame me. I can't remember exactly what happened in which episode, but I will say, for the start of season 2, I did find it a bit disappointing. In fact, this first episode was probably my least favorite out of the 3, because it reminds me of a typical like season premiere of a show like Game of Thrones, or I can't think of another show at the top of my head, but the kind of premiere where it doesn't really like address anything. Like season 1 ended on a huge cliffhanger, and I feel like this resolution to that was kind of a cop-out, if I'm being honest, because they jump ahead in time. They don't really show what Billy Butcher's reaction to seeing his ex-wife, or his wife, who I guess she's ex now, other than what we saw at the end of season 1. And they focus a lot on Homelander trying to raise his own son, but we don't really get. So I was actually, when I was watching the first episode, I was hoping episode 2 would actually, they were doing it out of order, and episode 2 would start at the end of season 1 and show us Billy with the son. Now, as far as we know, and this still might not be incredibly accurate, but as far as we know, as far as I can tell anyway, maybe I'm wrong, someone will correct me, but I think they're hinting at that at the end of season 1, when Homelander took Billy Butcher to see his wife, said, "Look, there she is, she's alive," and when the season cut to black, I think we're led to believe that Homelander kind of knocked him out or whatever, and he was unconscious, and then he woke up at that parking lot, and we saw him waking up in at the end of this episode. And where he's very confused. He doesn't actually, no, I think they showed that in episode 2. I told you these episodes blend together, but regardless, I think that's what we're meant to believe, and maybe that's the case. I'm hoping that it's not, but I think everyone will probably tell me that it is. I think that's what the show's telling us, and I find that a cop-out, because the big thing you want to see is what is her reaction to seeing Billy Butcher. Like, did she purposely leave him? Does she not love him anymore? Does she still love him, but she had to make a deal? Does she feel guilty about lying to him? Is she glad to see him again? Is she hateful of him? Does she, like, what is the deal? And I think, obviously they're going to get around to this eventually, but I think it's a cop-out that they don't get to it right fucking now. Maybe that's just my impatience talking, especially since I have to watch it weekly now. But I kind of wish that, I think there was a promise made at the end of season 1 that with this cliffhanger, you would have to wait all the way to season. You have to wait over a year for season 2, but once season 2 starts, you would get this resolution. And I think they reneged on the deal. I think they kind of copped that. Now, maybe there's a good reason why they did it, and it's going to lead to important storytelling. Maybe once they do this, say, haha, see, they couldn't have this conversation because that's sort of giving everything away too quickly. You want to pace things out. And I say bollocks to that. I still think it's a cop-out. But anyway. And plus, like, Billy, his whole return seemed kind of rushed and half-assed. Like, oh, I'm back, blah, blah. And Frenchie called him. I still don't, again, point something out to me if I missed it. How did he call him? He didn't know where the fuck he was. How did he get in contact? I don't know. It's a minor detail. Maybe someone will explain that to me, but I don't know. The whole thing felt very rushed. Like, all of a sudden he's back and he's being a dickhead again. Honestly, I didn't like him as much in these episodes as I did in season 1. Not that I'm saying he was out of character, because he was perfectly in character, but I just didn't find him as interesting. Now, the stuff with Homelander and his son, I did find that interesting. Homelander is a freaking sociopath, psychopath, and I thought it was very fascinating, the scene where the mother drove off to the facility where she obviously has a deal with them, and she's like, this wasn't a part of the deal, you promised. And they're like, look, there's nothing we can do about it now. He knows. You can't put the toothpaste back in the tube. Just give us some time, and he'll get tired of it. And then Homelander, apparently for some reason, I didn't know exactly that he could hear shit that's happening a long distance away, but he apparently knew exactly what they said. And they're like, oh, yeah, you're right. I'm not going to get tired of it. I'm not just going to go away. So this is very interesting. And of course, we got the scene, and I am going to sort of blend through the episodes, but we got the scene in episode 3 where the son, where he was forcing the son to try to use his powers to storm off the roof, and that really pissed him off. The mother was really pissed off, so Homelander was being a dick to his mother, so he got upset. He was like being an abusive father, so he started like using his powers, and Homelander was like, yes, I knew you could do it, where the boy's just like, go away, we don't want you here. So that's really interesting. I'm really curious to see where they're going with this. And then, of course, you also got, you got the continuation. They didn't get really much into this other than the first episode, that the soups, as they call them, are fighting overseas, which is kind of interesting. Now, all right, so let me get into Stormfront, who's the big new character this season. And it's a really interesting character with a very interesting introduction. In fact, when I saw this character teased in the trailer, I'm just like, oh, this looks like a stereotypical new character. I don't really care about her. But they got me interested. So first of all, I gotta talk about that scene, which is another crazy, over-the-top, ridiculous, the boys kind of scene where what's-her-face, who was taking Elizabeth Shue's place. I'm blanking on all the names in the show. But anyway, the new person, who's basically just like a secretary or assistant in last season, but now she's in charge, kind of reminds me of Damar. But anyway, so she's like, oh, I got this guy to be in the Seven. Homelander's like, having his friendly conversation. He's like, oh, I hero worship you. You're great. He's like, oh, stop it. Oh, I'm very impressed, blah, blah, blah. But let me ask you a question. Now, as soon as he said, let me ask a question, and everyone's like, oh, yeah, sure, whatever, I knew that he was going to do something violent and vile. Like, I could, like, that's Homeland, and that's part of what makes this character so fucking terrifying, is he is a sociopath, but he actually uses this tactic a lot, where he'll pretend to be really friendly. In fact, there was a scene in episode 3 when he was talking to Queen Maeve, when he was like being all friendly like this, where I thought he was gonna snap and kill her or something, but it seemed in that scene that he was sincerely just being friendly. But he often, so that makes it more terrifying that maybe he could just be friendly, or he's just gonna snap and like kill someone, because that's usually what he does. He pretends he's like, oh, come here, oh, I love you, oh, we're all friends, laser eyes dead. Like, that is really fucked up. So but this time there was no question in my mind. Like, I knew that he was going to do something violent. So when he was like, it was like, oh, so what happens if someone does this and smacks his ears so he can't hear, and there's like blood pouring out of his ears. I think they kind of overdid it with the blood special effects in this case, and the the secretary or whatever is like just shocked and staring at him. She's like, don't look at him, look at me, you don't control here. Now, I think it's inconsistent, I gotta be honest, when he meets Stormfront, and the secretary starts freaking out because she thinks the same thing's coming. She's like, it wasn't me, I didn't do it this time. When Homelander finds out that she's part of the Seven, and he's like, oh really, you're part of the Seven. I expected him to do the same thing. I expected him to try to fuck her up, but she seems to be a bit more capable. So I actually was expecting like a big fight. So instead, they find out it was, I don't know any of these characters' names. Breaking Bad guy, Gus Fring. Alright, I'm looking up his name right now, see if I can find it. They don't have it listed here. Anyway, Gus Fring, he goes to Gus Fring and is like, trying to intimidate him. Look, he's doing that whole, oh, we're all friend, and then he like comes down and was like, Stan Edgar. Okay, Stan Edgar, found it. Giancarlo Esposito, I believe is the actor's name. Great actor. They always bring him in to play the best villains. But anyway, he goes to Stan Edgar and tries to lay down the law, but Edgar kind of overpowers him. He's like, look, he's like telling this long story, and he's like, look, this is a pharmaceutical company, not a superhero company, so yeah, we don't fucking, you're not gonna intimidate me. You can threaten to leave all you want. Now, I gotta be honest, I was expecting something more from him. I don't really think that's enough to keep Homelander at bay. I mean, he's like smacked that guy's ears and had blood pouring out of his ears, just to put Ashley, that's her name, Ashley Burnett. I'm looking up all the names now. Just to put Ashley in her place. And so it seems like his response was disproportionate this time. And we know from the way that he treated, again, I don't have her name in front of me, Stilton or Stilt something, like Elizabeth Shue. Anyway, the way he treated her, like, he doesn't give a fuck. He was in love with her. He had a long working relationship with her for years, and he was still willing to just kill her. So I don't understand why he just didn't do the same thing to Gus Fring. Stan Edgar. I don't see. I was expecting something a lot more impressive from Stan Edgar to put Homelander in his place. So I didn't completely buy that scene, if I'm being frank. It seemed disproportionate to the other one, and why he wouldn't just like smack Stormfront around or whatever. But anyway, let me talk about Stormfront, because she's an interesting character because she's kind of like not giving a shit. She's like, oh, fuck the blah, blah. And their interactions between her and Starlight in the second episode were really interesting because she pegged Starlight wrong, basically. She's like, oh, you're just a pretty face and just repeating all the things. And she's like, no. And she actually felt like she needed to clarify this, although it was just a ruse so she could get her bag back. But anyway, she did feel like she's like, look, I'm not like one of them. I actually, I agree with you. I hate Voight, or however you say it. And I think this is all bullshit. She's like, yeah, right, whatever. So Starlight is looking at her as an ally, and it seemed like she almost got it because when Stormfront was talking about why do you hate them or whatever, and Starlight couldn't say it because she didn't know if she could trust her, and that was extremely smart not to trust her, as we find out, because it seems like Starlight had Stormfront pegged wrong. She thought that this could be an ally, someone who also hates all this bullshit, but in fact, even though Stormfront does also hate all this bullshit, she, like Homelander, is a sociopath, which we definitely learned in episode 3. So she was this close to being screwed if she actually let Stormfront in, because as we find out, Stormfront has different reasons for hating Voight, and it's because she's just a sociopath who doesn't give a fuck. And like, she took like satanic sincere pleasure in killing that guy. She's like, let me see your eyes, I want to see the light. Like, that's fuck. And she's killing civilians left and right. Now, this is, again, I think I give it a little bit of leeway because it's a satire, but it's, again, a bit over the top. Now, I was actually thinking of like Captain America Civil War, that like this is the exact opposite of that, because in Civil War, like, they want to put all these laws and restrictions and regulations on superheroes for the collateral damage they cause, which in most of those cases, particularly referring to the earlier movies, if they didn't intervene at all, more people would have died. So that didn't make sense to me. I thought that was actually bullshit, and that these people, oh, you gotta be stopped, you're killing civilians, was total nonsense. I mean, they obviously, no, it's not a good thing there's collateral damage, but if they did nothing, then like literally 10 times the amount of people would have died, if not actually more. And fucking S.H.I.E.L.D. tried to nuke New York City, so they're being hypocrites. But anyway, I'm sorry, getting too much into Marvel stuff. But anyway, it's funny, you compare that where they're like completely overreacting to collateral damage, where here, like, she is the exact opposite. She just goes around killing civilians for no reason, just lightning, killing them just because they're screaming, just to get them to stop. She just kills civilians left and right, and nobody notices, and she still smiles for the cameras as a hero. Surely someone would notice this. I don't know that. So, yeah, it's funny, like, the reaction to, the Avengers is, like, way over the top, where the reaction for here is non-existent. Like, I don't know. Something about that just annoyed me a little bit. They're going a bit over top. They got to show how evil she is. But anyway, so let's talk about the boys a bit. I guess, as always, I think they're the least interesting part of the show, called The Boys. Now, it's not to say they're not interesting at all. They were trying to develop the character dynamics, but I still don't feel that camaraderie. Like, when they found out that, and I don't even know her name, but the woman of the group, I guess she's the only one, so I can say that. But when they found out that the guy they were looking for was her brother, Mother's Milk stood up for her, and of course Frenchie did, obviously, because he's in love with her. And I was like, look, she's one of us. And I didn't feel that. It feels like I was just being told, like, tell, not show. Like, I was just being told she's one of the group, but I never felt that camaraderie between them. I didn't feel like they were a family, a group who would stick up for each other like that. So it seems like kind of plot convenience that they are sticking up for each other like that. And the whole thing in episode 3, where there was a huge feud between Billy Butcher and God damn it, Hugh. There we go. There's a huge feud between Billy Butcher. I'll learn these names eventually. But there's a huge feud between Billy Butcher and Hugh throughout that episode, and I kind of didn't buy that either. I mean, I don't know. I did kind of like the resolution where Billy Butcher did, like, he gave up, that he wouldn't just let Hugh die. So I did like that he gave up his one clear shot to reunite with his wife, which, honestly, I think he's a bit deluding himself. And that's why I wish they would show some damn interaction. I wonder if there was, and we'll get some later in the flashback. But anyway, regardless, I think he's deluding himself, thinking that it's going to be a happy reunion. She's going to welcome him back, and their marriage is going to resume. It's a fuck ton more complicated than that. So I think he's kind of, but it's good. It's a good character beat for him, because he does seem like the kind, because he was so obsessed with reuniting with her, he does seem like the kind who would make that mistake. I just think it's kind of ironic that he is making that mistake. But anyway, he convinced himself that he needs to reunite, and anyone, he said to Hugh, you get in my way again for me reuniting with my wife, I'm gonna fucking kill you. And then at the end of the episode, he gives it up. He gives up his chance to reunite with his wife, because he just couldn't stand there and let Hugh die. So I did like that. I did think that was a good beat. Not to mention, like, the Starlight stuff is pretty interesting. How, her and Hugh are in it together, and they're kind of, at first, Mother's Milk is like, what the fuck, you? Why are you talking to her? You're just gonna, you're gonna make things worse for her? That's interesting. He was looking at it from that point of view. And so I think it's that talk that made Hugh lie to her, because then they went and saw the FBI or the CIA agent, so I get my agencies right, and they're gonna go in. It's like, oh, we have this evidence, we can help you out, blah blah blah. And it seems like she put it all together, but these guys were a bit behind. And even after she died, I don't think they actually heard her correctly, because I asked her to repeat, but then her head exploded. So what the hell? This is another crazy over the top shit. We still don't know what the hell the deal with that is. Why her head just spontaneously exploded? Who was responsible? Why didn't they kill the boys? But it seemed like she put everything together. So it's a clear tie to Vought or Voight or whatever they're called. But there's still mystery surrounding that. But anyway, when Hugh was talking to Starlight, he refused to tell her that. And she could tell. She's like, you're lying. I can tell you're lying. Why aren't you telling me? And the whole time I'm watching this, I'm being like, just tell her, goddammit, tell her. And he's like, oh, I'm not hiding anything. And that creates a rift between them. Now, obviously, the reason why he didn't is because he felt like doing so would put her life in danger, so he's trying to protect her. But I do think that is the wrong move to make, that he should trust her more than that. And besides, they've been working together, and also he should know that she knows he's lying, so he might as well just come clean. That's what I was thinking. I was like, please just have him come clean. And when he didn't, I was like, oh, that's so dumb. I think that's almost contrived story writing. Like in real life, someone like you would be like, okay, you got me, and would just come clean. That's just my opinion. It seems like they just did it for the plot. So because they don't want them, they want to create a rift between them, which they do. But then we get this scene in episode 3 where Starlight finds Hugh while she's chasing the fugitive. She had no idea to find him there, but of course the 7 are right there, so he's like, oh, thank God you're here, but she has to attack him to make it look good. But then Homelander shows up and is like, kill him, and she couldn't bring, she's just like stuttering. It's like, well, she's trying to find some excuse, some reason to not blow her cover but not kill you. And Homelander's like, all right, you need an incentive. Well, kill him or I'll kill you both. And so at that point, I do like this moment a lot, how Hugh was like nodding, because he's like, go ahead and do it. You have to kill me in order to save yourself. And he was at peace with that, which I thought was great. But I did also feel like Starlight would never recover from that emotionally if she had to do that. If she was forced to kill Hugh, she would, first of all, never forgive Homelander. And secondly, she would never forgive herself. She would be completely traumatized. by that. So I wonder if she'll look on Billy Butcher a bit differently now, because he's the one that saved her from having to do that. He saved Hugh's life. So I did really like that moment, but then of course, like the whole thing with what's her face's brother. I don't think I have her name in front of me, but Kimiko. There we go, Kimiko. Yeah, the whole thing with Kimiko's brother. I mean, that's okay. It was kind of interesting how he was kind of brainwashed. It's like, no, we have to go out and fight them, and it was a bit heartbreaking. And it was a bit heartbreaking how because he wanted to run away, it's what led to his death, because it's what allowed Stormfront to catch them. So, yeah, that was all very tragic and whatnot. And then we also had the stuff with A-Train. That was pretty interesting how they kind of, because he knew what Starlight was up to, but she kind of like blackmailed him into not telling him. Once he didn't tell, he was in deep. He's like, if you go down, I go down. He's going to kill us both. So that's a really interesting dynamic that I like. Now let's talk about what I don't like, and that is the Deep. I mentioned this in my season 1 review. I don't like this character, particularly like towards the end of season 1 when he's separated in Ohio. I don't care. And now he's meet up with this Arrow guy, or whatever his name is, and some crazy cult thing where they want him to join this culty religion thing. I really don't care about that. And when he shows up with all the, it was kind of cool when all the sharks were attacking a boat, but when he gets to the well and blocks the way, of course they're going to drive the things through the well, and I'm kind of sick of all this violence towards these land mammals. The dolphin thing in season 1 I didn't find funny either. Not because, they're killing a dolphin, but because they're killing a dolphin for a stupid joke that's not funny, and neither was this. So I don't know. I don't like the Deep. I think they should have just wrote that character off the show. I don't care about him. My season 1 review, I was saying it had something to do with the fact that he sexually harassed, and I was like, well, he's sexually harassing her like that, then fuck him. But at this stage, it's more of, I don't care about him either way. I don't hate him. I don't like him. I just don't care. I don't want to see him. He's not interesting. These scenes are boring. Every time they cut back to him, I'm like, please let this shit finish. I don't care. Plain and simple. Anyway, I think that's all I gotta say about these first 3 episodes. I'm not gonna give a rating for everyone because, as I said, I can't even separate them in my mind very clearly. But for a collective one, I'm gonna give them an 8. A lot of good stuff, some boring stuff. But good character stuff, like good character beats, even in the boring stuff. I think they made it up for with how interesting it was in different areas, and it's a great setup. Like, I'm really interested to see where they're going with the rest of the season, which I have to wait for now. Anyway, thanks so much for watching this video. Be sure to check out my channel every week as I cover this show week to week. I will be here. Anyway, be sure to check out my channel as I cover many other shows like Lower Decks, Star Trek The Expanse, BoJack Horseman, and more. So be sure to subscribe so you can keep up with all of that. And thanks a lot for watching.